Hello, my name is Donna Costa. I'm president of Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings America, Inc., which is based in New York City. I've been with Mitsubishi Chemical for over 20 years. It's my privilege and honor to be here today at the invitation of Shibaura Institute of Technology to talk about breaking the glass ceiling. I'm basically going to address three topics. First, my path at Mitsubishi Chemical. Second, breaking the glass ceiling, my personal experience. And finally, some closing words. My background and experience, starting with my education, is I got a bachelor's degree in 1982 from Tufts University. Ironically, I started out as an engineering student, but I felt very uncomfortable as a woman in that world in 1982. And I switched to social sciences, where I eventually got a degree before going to law school. I was a lawyer for years, and then I supplemented my education in 2013 by getting a Master's of Business Administration. I began working as a lawyer at the international law firm Cleary Gottlieb Steen and Hamilton in 1987, and was invited to join Mitsubishi Chemical in New York to create a legal department for them in 1996. As you can see, I proceeded through my experience at Mitsubishi Chemical by getting enhanced jobs and having promotions, but essentially staying in the position of General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer. In 2015, I was appointed president of Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings America. I was the first American in that role, and I was the first woman in that role. And it made me the first woman president within the entire Mitsubishi Chemical Group globally. I just found out yesterday that effective next year, I will also be responsible as president of Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings Europe, based in Germany. So here's just a couple of thoughts I have. Being an American woman at a Japanese company is a great experience, but can be very challenging and frustrating. I have succeeded by working twice as hard as I think I would have at an American company, but learning a lot along the way, learning about the Japanese culture for better and sometimes not so better. And what I have discovered is that being an American in a Japanese company is a lot like being a woman in any male-dominated industry or organization. I have been a double minority as a woman in a Japanese company, and one could say I have broken more than one glass ceiling. So I'd like to talk a little bit about my experience, my personal experience breaking the glass ceiling. First, I found I had to go out of my way to prove my value to the company. I had to do it through my actions. But I don't mean just putting in more long hours or writing the perfect paper. I mean showing how I added value. It meant thinking about new ideas. It meant presenting my thoughts and opinions honestly, not in a threatening way, but in a way so that people saw I had something to bring. I also did not keep my head down. Women have a tendency to just say, okay, I'm just going to do my job and I will be recognized. I will be acknowledged. I am smart. Someone will discover that I am smart. It doesn't work that way. You can't just keep your head down. You may be familiar with Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. It's similar to that. It's not being aggressive and it's not being arrogant. It's just making sure that you are communicating your point and you are finding your seat at that table and that you are participating. In this way, I challenge gender stereotypes through my actions, not by saying, don't treat women this way, not by saying women are capable, but by demonstrating that I was capable and as capable as any man. I also built my own networks inside and outside the company. This is incredibly important for women in particular. although it's good advice for everyone. It's very common for women to feel isolated in organizations. There aren't as many people who understand them, understand their experience and what they're going through. And we can't always find mentors within our own organizations. So speaking to women outside can be very powerful and very supportive. I created opportunities for myself where they didn't exist. I did not wait for people to tell me, we have a new project for you, or we have a new job. I saw where there were needs, I saw where there were gaps, I saw where there was need for improvement, and I volunteered to take responsibility for them. This isn't always possible. It's certainly not possible daily. It's certainly not possible in every organization. But I think part of the way we prove our commitment, our loyalty, and our value is by seeing what needs to be done and by offering to do it. I created opportunities for myself where they didn't exist. That's what I just said, excuse me. I found ways to compensate for imperfect role models, mentors, and sponsors. This was a very important learning experience for me. When I joined the law firm, I did not find men or women who I felt like I identified with. And I thought, oh my God, I have no role models. I have no mentors. How can I possibly succeed and get ahead? And what I discovered is it's possible to take a little bit from one person and a little bit from another person and to learn through watching other people the kind of lawyer or the kind of professional that I wanted to be. And I learned about leadership and I learned about management by watching other people. Sometimes they were negative lessons. Sometimes what I realized is I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that. But it was through both the positive and the negative that I began to be able to see myself in assuming management and leadership roles. So one of the things that kept coming up for me was, am I being myself? How can I be myself, my authentic self, and also be appropriate in the eyes of others? I'm a very outspoken person. I'm used to speaking my mind. And yet I found myself in situations where people didn't really want to know what was on my mind. And they didn't think I should be speaking out or taking a more assertive role. So I had to find a balance, and I still am trying to find that balance today. I ran a network for Japanese expats in New York, a networking event for men and women. And one of the women there said that the way she's coped with being Japanese in the United States is she has her Japanese self and she has her American self. And I thought that was beautiful because she's still one person and she's still being true to herself, but she realized she has to adjust her behavior depending on the context and the culture she's in. Well, the same thing is true here. We can be ourselves, we can be our genuine selves, and at the same time, no, we have to adjust. We have to adjust to culture, we have to adjust to context. And finding that balance can be challenging, but it's really essential. So here's a quote from a newspaper article just 2 weeks ago that I thought was incredibly important. It was in the New York Times. If women stay boxed in by the norms of our gender, passive, gentle, and congenial, we may not be viewed as leadership material. Because after all, you're not a leader if you're passive. If women adopt norms of a leader, commanding, decisive, and assertive, we may be punished for being too bossy, too pushy, too strident, too ambitious, and too scary. I have been accused of being too scary on numerous occasions. There's ample social science that shows that society expects more from female leaders than from male leaders. We have a very high bar. There are high expectations. Breaking through the glass ceiling is not for the weak, and it's not for the meek, and it's not for the fearful. But if we can find this balance between being a leader and not being portrayed excessively as bossy and arrogant and assertive, we can get there. So there are a number of other things I did which are not just about breaking through the glass ceiling, but have to do with leadership in general and had to do with my personal path. I am committed to lifelong learning. I went and got an MBA when I was 50 years old. I think that the commitment to always grow and be better is a very useful thing in being a leader. I embrace what's new and different. I don't allow things to scare me. I think globally. The MBA program I did was a global program. I am constantly trying to expose myself to other cultures and other ways of thinking because it helps to inform what I do. I build community, which is not the same as building consensus, by surrounding myself with people who are both like-minded and not like-minded. I try to engage in good communication and being a good listener. Unless we listen to other people, unless we know what they want and what they expect, we cannot succeed and we will not advance. Diversity in all forms is very important to me. It means diversity of opinion, diversity of background, diversity of approach, not just diversity of gender or race. And innovation. I strive to always see through new eyes. In the tech community, innovation is about innovative technology and products, but I view innovation more broadly as referring to how we look at everything we do, our processes, our actions, our organizations, and try to continually innovate to find improvement. And then finally, being a force of change. This is not easy in a Japanese company, but I think it's something we should always aspire to. So, a few closing words. Please, please do not wait for men to decide that they are ready for gender equality. No one ever gets ready on their own. And that doesn't mean that you beat them up, and it doesn't mean that you try to make arguments. It means that you just demonstrate to them that they want you around. You make a case for it in the way you approach your work, the way you communicate, and the way you approach your relationships. Next, educate your supervisors and coworkers. That doesn't always mean telling a story of gender diversity, although sometimes it does. But it means keeping communication open. Don't pretend that gender inequality does not exist. Do not pretend it's not an issue. Be ready to talk about the value of diversity in all of its forms in creating healthy organizations. Keep men in the conversation. This is not a conversation for women only. This is very important. This should be an inclusive discussion, because inclusivity, inclusion in work, and diversity is what makes us more powerful and more successful. Seek out new opportunities, create them where they don't exist. I already addressed that. I can't stress this enough. Do not sit in your office waiting for the opportunities to come to you, because sometimes they don't. And finally, find a mentor, be a mentor, and support other women. It's important that you find women who you can, or men, excuse me. It's important that you find men and women who can mentor you and sponsor you. And it's important that very early on you learn to mentor others and support other women, because this is how you build your community and people want you to succeed. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'm honored to get to speak to you today. I hope you found at least one or two words that will be of value to you. Thank you.